Here too.
Hey, Mr. Fickner. Good
How we
evening.
doing, all? Good evening.
Good evening. All right.
Having technical difficulties with the laptop, so I have to do an audio tonight.
It's just good to hear your voice.
Oh, why, thank you.
All right, so since the board is here, I do have an introduction to tonight's remote meeting. This open meeting of the Mendon Board of Health is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's updated guidance on holding meetings pursuant to the act extending certain COVID-19 measures that was signed into law on June 16, 2021. This act includes an extension until March 31st, 2023 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Mendon Board of Health is convening by video telephone conference as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. This meeting will feature public comment. The time is now 7:07 p.m. and I'll hand it over to the chairman, Ellen Greenberg.
Thank you very much, Jack, and thank you for everybody that's attended. I will do my best to try not to forget anybody that wants to comment. Jack will handle that. Please raise your hand, and we'll try to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak on the agenda items tonight. Looks like we're going to start with a complaint that was made to the Mass DEP at 18 Inman Hill Road. So, Jack, why don't you give us a little background and then we'll open it up to people that want to make comments.
Yes, I received an email from the Mass DEP that received a complaint saying that there is a commercial business on the residence, specifically storing a roll-off container adjacent to Inman Hill Conservation Area and Quissit Wildlife Conservation Area, allowing other businesses to dump material in the roll-off container. The DEP is concerned of contaminated water exiting the roll-off container and impacting the surrounding soil. I did send a letter of us meeting tonight about this topic to 18 Inman Hill. I spoke with Ellen, the town clerk, to check if the address of the resident has a business license. She said they do, but I spoke to Gail in the building department to see if they had a business occupancy permit, and they do not. I did forward the DEP email to Concom to keep them in the loop, and I also spoke with John Erickson regarding zoning, and he is aware of it, and it is on his list to look into.
All right, thank you, Jack. I know I told you that I was going to try to knock on Mr. Pisano's door, and I did not have the opportunity to do that since we last talked. I believe the resident that made the complaint is on board.
I do have Sioban, I believe, is the resident at that property with her hand raised.
All right, excellent. Let's let them speak first. And again, anybody that wants to speak on this topic, please raise your hand and we'll try to keep it as orderly as we can. All right, go ahead, Jack.
All right, Sioban, go ahead, please.
Hi, it's actually Siobhan, but
Siobhan, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Yeah, so we did get the letter. So we're just kind of confused because like how the EPA got involved because we thought this was resolved. Um, Alan, we spoke with you not long ago about this whole issue, and then since then we've done, what you guys have asked. We've done trash pickup. We've done the swap outs on our property. We don't have. We're not like having a business here. Rick runs the business out of his home, which is why we do have the business use of home permit. But as far as like running like a commercial business here, that is not accurate.
Yeah, in fact, let me address that for a second, Ellen. The complaint was that businesses are dumping trash at my property. Is that the complaint?
Yes, it appears that that's the situation. We received some photographs and I believe some video of a van that's registered to a business from 40 Pearl Street in Milford.
Yeah.
I know that, you know, you and I and Siobhan definitely had some discussions over the summer at how to resolve this, and I do appreciate what you've attempted to do to comply with our wishes and your neighbor's wishes, trying to be a good neighbor. I think, in my opinion, the only thing that I see that hasn't taken place is the dumpster has not been shrunken down to like a 2-yard dumpster, which is something that we spoke about. Now,
Al, do you come by often?
I haven't come by in a while, and like
Okay.
I said, when we received this complaint,
Yeah,
I did want to reach out to you because essentially, even though you're, you know, a mile down the road or whatever, you're a neighbor. And I apologize for not being able to make the time to knock on your door and have a little discussion before the meeting.
busy like everybody else, but the 30-yarder went down to a 15-yarder, like I told you it would.
Okay,
Then we were going to side the house because we just put the new windows in. So we got the 30 so that we could put all the siding and everything else in a bigger dumpster.
okay,
And that's why there's a 30 here now. But we were going to comply with you in the sense of take the roll off out of here and then just go down to a 4-yard or 2-yard, 4-yard, whatever the case may be.
okay. So
Now-
your construction is still ongoing.
The construction is still ongoing. We just put a patio, we just put a walkway in. So we put the deck on. So this is my only, how should I say, complaint right now.
Okay.
And Tish,
Um,
I'm glad Tish is on the line here because we've made we've taken every step to try to comply with her. I don't understand why she has to keep bullying us or videotaping us or whatever the case may be. It's, that's not neighborly. If she has a complaint, and I'm going to say this over the air right now because we've talked about this personally. If she has a complaint, she should have called us. Now, she had a complaint about a month or so ago. We had one of the outside lights on. She texted Siobhan and said that the light was too bright or something for her right at that point in time because of her son. We shut it right off. We were very happy that she reached out to us and told us what was, what if we could do something. We just find this continual bullying of hers getting to a point now where
It's harassment.
it's harassment.
Because
And-
we did what you guys asked and now
Right.
it just doesn't end. Like now it's something else. And we did what you guys asked and it was not about construction stuff being in the dumpster. It was about the mixing of the two. So we did what you guys asked. We got that and now this is something new. And I just feel like it never ends and it's becoming to the point now of harassment, taking videos, taking pictures on our property. And she thinks she knows what's going on and she doesn't because
Exactly.
that vehicle that you said registered in Milford works for Rick's company. So he's not letting other businesses dump here. That's for Rick's customers that person does work at and dumps any necessary construction material here. It's not for another company. It's for Rick's company.
And Al,
okay.
talk-
Yes, go ahead.
you would have talked to BP right now. I've transferred everything over now to getting dumpsters on my customers' properties. And they can verify that. Because they're dumping container after container on my customer's properties. As I told them, I said, listen, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have to load my truck up, have to unload it at the house. It's not worth it. I'm 57 years old and I don't want to do that anymore. So this is the thing, we're complying. It's taking a little bit of time because we're doing house
Well,
construction.
no, we did what they asked.
No,
This is something new.
No, I know. What I'm saying is we're doing everything you guys have asked. And it's going to come off soon once the siding comes on because that's our last big project other than landscaping. So she's just got to learn to mind her own business, wait, be patient, and go from there. I don't want to take any legal actions,
But we will.
but I will take legal action if this continues.
Okay, I agree. We've had conversations,
Yeah.
and you signed up for the local trash pickup to keep the household trash out of the dumpster. I wasn't aware that the dumpster had gone back up to a 30-yard dumpster until recently, and you confirmed it. And I understand that the construction on your property is ongoing. However, whether or not these subcontractors work for you, the fact that they're transporting trash, and I don't know all the nuances of the law, is a little concerning that they're transporting trash from your customers into Mendon to be put into that dumpster. That might be a little gray area. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% sure. There has been talk that may qualify as a transfer station under mass laws.
Okay, well, if
So
you-
I would discourage that if at all possible. And that seems to be what the current complaint is. That maybe that
But
trash,
my-
instead of, excuse me, one moment, please. Please. If that trash is coming from your customers' jobs, why isn't it going into the dumpsters at your customer jobs? That would be number one. The other point I'll make, and then you're more than welcome to speak again. Thank you for your patience. Is that dumpster regulations are coming. So, you know, there are going to be maybe some more things that you have to comply with as far as the duration that you have a dumpster of that size on the property. That's not coming into effect until after January 1st. All right, I'm done. Back to you, Jack. Thank you for your patience.
All right, I do have Lonnie Tinio with his hand raised. Lonnie?
so I don't know if you answer the questions.
I guess not.
All right, hold on. I can't figure out how to do it. I used to know how, but. So, just on the note of, bringing the trash from a job site to the location of a residence, that would actually start falling in that area of running the business from the home, because now you're having contractors and or employees bringing the debris from construction sites, like you said, into Mendon from another job site. So I do believe also that it was answered that that's going to stop, because now they're actually putting dumpsters on the sites. So hopefully that's the way that it's going to go. But I would definitely say that bringing debris from a job site into another town, or, you know, to, even if it's one thing if you, for instance, have a commercial location that's a construction yard, that you have your dumpster there and that's what you do, you bring your debris. That's different, because then, you know, dumpsters are allowed in those commercial zones. But to bring it into a residential zone, now we're talking about, you know, now that I know that it was mentioned that the business isn't run out of the home, but we're now crossing that line with that type of action.
All right, thank you. Shaban?
Okay, so if you saw the pictures, chances are, I don't know what the date of those are. First of all, they're not running that construction material every day, every week, even once a month here. Every once in a while, I have a job where I'll have 2 pieces or a bag of lumber or whatever the case. He's got an F-150, or not an F-150, an E-150. Doesn't hold a ton of stuff. This is not like my cutaway van. So I just wanted to say, first of all, this is not a commercial haul. It would be a bag of lumber or whatever the case may be that I'm doing and dropped off. Second of all, that's fine with me. Like I said, I'm transitioning over into doing everything at the customer's house. So I have no problem with that. I've had this dumpster 15 years, over 15 years, guys, on this property. Over 15. I understand things change and everything else, but you got to understand something. This has been dropped on us this year or the last couple of years. We're doing everything we can to comply with you. I think you've seen that. I just don't like the fact
That we're being stalked, and it is stalking.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. And like Tisha why would she even care who comes into our driveway? Why does it bother her if people deliver extra wood or whatever the case may be? She shouldn't even know who comes in our driveway. That's the problem, is the stalking. And she put in the chat that there's a van with a business sign on it. It's called subcontracting.
I understand that.
Well, she
All
doesn't.
right, I know that, but I'm just saying,
Okay,
we're doing everything
It's
we
really
can to
making me
comply,
mad.
and we will comply. I had a plan, still have a plan. Alan, you know my plan. If you guys have a problem with my plan, let's discuss that. But that's the plan.
And if you guys say no, don't have other companies, whatever, even though they're subcontractors, if you say no, then fine.
We're fine
We'll
with that.
comply.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's not the dumpster. It's the stalking that makes me scared. And it does. It scares me.
okay, I do have a lot of people with their hands raised. I'm gonna go with Tisha. Tisha, go ahead.
Hi. So my concern really is just safety. It's not only my well I'm worried about, honestly, it's your well as well. So when I see someone, and no, I'm not stalking, I'm just concerned because when I see, and this has been going on for years, and I did bring it up to the selectmen years ago, so this isn't my new fascination with you. And I really do appreciate you turning the light down. I just didn't feel as though, since I already brought it up before to selectmen, that this was something like, hey, can you, stop letting others dump in your 30-yard dumpster? When I see bag after bag of giant contractor size trash bags, coming out of a van, and it's a van. It's been the same van for years, only this time they had their sign on. It concerns me what's in those bags because we're all on private wells. And the dumpster is also just located a few short feet of conservation land. And I'm sorry I care about these things, but I do. I'm concerned for my health, your health. I'm very sorry that it's gotten so heated, but I can't turn a blind eye on seeing others pulling in and dumping into the 30-yard dumpster anymore. It's gone on for years. But I do appreciate with everything that you've made attempts to comply on so far. I really do. But I'm sorry, it just really is about health. What private water. You have an elderly woman living downhill from where this thing has been dumped for many, many years. Her well, her health. So these are the things that enter my mind. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Joyce?
I think that we are pretty clear on what's happening, and I'm thinking, and I think it would take a lot of water to contaminate someone's well from an environmental standpoint, which is where my credentials come from, environmental engineering. So I think that just to put you at, make you feel better, I think that it would take a lot of water to do that. But what I'm hearing from the persons that they have started to amend that. They're requiring all on their job sites to have their own dumpsters. They're doing home improvement. And once that's done, they're going to move on and not have that dumpster. So just from a listening standpoint on this side of the table, it seems to me that they are saying they're going to comply.
Okay, thank you. Shaban?
Thank you, Joyce, very much. I appreciate the sentiments, and I was going to ask you, but I'm not going to even bring it up about the EPA thing. And I mean, what's being dumped in there is just lumber. There's no paints, there's no solvents, there's no anything of that nature. Everything was, if I tear down a deck, it was a bunch of lumber and wood. In the bags would be things like, maybe caulking gun, residue, something like that, Altex, latex things. But again, I'm not going to go into it because, again, we're moving forward. That's all we want to do is move forward. Tisha, I appreciate your sentiments as well. I just wish you could be more neighborly and then just come to us instead of having to send letters off to everybody and complain about everything, that we have to waste our time on here instead of you just saying, hey, Rick, I'm concerned about something. Instead of calling the police and everything else, just talk to me. I'm open to talk. And I hope that from this point forward, that like you did earlier with the light, you could either text me or Siobhan and just, if you have something or an issue or you have a problem, please come to me. Just call me. I'll be more than happy to discuss it with you, rectify whatever we need to
Like a
rectify,
sarcastic tone.
go from there.
I appreciate that, Rick. And you know what? I will make an attempt to reach out to you. So, for example, if I see the white van again, I'm going to reach out to you first. But I'm hearing from you that that won't be happening anymore. Is that correct? And there'll be no more transferring from jobs, like as if you're running a transfer station on your property. That won't be happening anymore?
Never looked like that before, but like I said, I'm getting dumpsters on the properties now of my customers, and anything that comes back is going to be something that was entirely from our house.
And also, just so you know, you may see the white van, but that doesn't mean that he's dumping here, because Rick's contractors do meet here sometimes to talk about things, or maybe he'll come pick up a check, or maybe he's doing work here, because they have done work here too. So you may see the white van or others come onto our property, but that doesn't
Of
mean.
course, of course, and I understand that. But from my office, when I can see people hoisting over big, giant black bags and things, that's the only time I take note.
And a lot of those bags came from our house. We did a lot of work, as you know, in the back of the house this year. They were
Oh,
here.
beautiful job, but I can see it coming out of the van. Let's not, okay?
Tish, we're not arguing about anything here. I'm just saying to you is, we're moving forward. We already
Wonderful.
have the issue, and I'm just saying, reach out to me if there's an issue, and we can run from there. I just want to move forward, keep the peace, go from there.
Okay, thank-
Absolutely. And I just want things to be safe.
It's always,
Okay,
I want to pollute my own water, Tish.
all right, thank you very much, Alan. Alan, you're on mute.
I apologize. If everyone has had an opportunity to speak on this topic, I would just kind of like to close it out for now. Anybody have any further comments?
Just
All
a
right, very
question
good.
from my standpoint.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Hit me.
I'm the third board member. Rick, Siobhan, just curious, when you talk about the plan, could you put a time frame to that plan that you're talking about, out of curiosity?
Siobhan, go ahead.
We're hoping to have the siding done before the winter time, but the colds come in pretty fast, pretty quick, more than usual. So I'm hoping that if we can get a little bit of a warm spell, at least a couple of days or something, then I can attempt to do it. If not, then I'm going to have to wait till spring.
Well, I'm not so much concerned about your property and
Oh.
what you're doing there, because that's local debris that you're generating for your dumpster.
Yeah.
I'm kind of referring to the plan to implement to no longer have any debris come from any other site to your location.
That's already been implemented.
So that's been done. Every site now has its own dumpster at it, so that's already in place everywhere.
Yep. If you call BP and ask them about my account, and I gave you permission, they can tell you everywhere where all the dumpsters are right now on everybody else's properties.
Okay, so basically then at that point, then we should see no more trash coming out of any vans at this point, and the people that come, they're just coming to visit or to communicate from a business standpoint. So that's a good thing.
All right,
That's
thank you,
all I
Tom.
was looking to confirm. Yep.
I thought I already confirmed it. Okay, yep. I don't know how many times I can say it.
No, I just want to make sure. There seemed to be a little bit of question as to, the timing there. So I just wanted to hear definitively that from tonight on, there'll be no more incidences of any vans coming to bring any material from any other site ever again. That's basically what we're saying, so that's a great thing.
Okay.
And that was the gist of the latest complaint, because you have, complied with other requests in the past, which is greatly appreciated. So it sounds like this latest issue is should no longer be an issue. So that's a wonderful thing.
And just one more thing, if neighbors would mind just not posting things to Facebook instead of talking to us, because that's childish. That's all.
Okay, I believe we have everything all said. Ellen, anything more on this?
No, I just want to close it out. I appreciate the fact that the neighbors are going to try to converse about this firsthand before going any further, and see if they can work this out with each other. I'm glad that the transfer of materials from other jobs has already, the plan has already been implemented to make sure that isn't going on, which is part of the complaint to the Mass DEP. The other thing is, I would like, to make sure Rick and Saban, make sure you familiarize yourself with the dumpster regulations that are going into effect on January 1st. Because there is a initial time period for which you can have a dumpster on your property to handle a renovation project. I think we made it a more than adequate amount of time. There is an ability to apply for an extension. A lot of the responsibility to make sure that the dumpster is being used properly is on the licensed dumpster hauler. So just, make sure you get a copy of it, make sure you familiarize yourself with it. And it's always been a pleasure when I've stopped and talked with you guys. You have done a wonderful job on that house. And I wish you a few less bumps in the road to the completion of your project. So if no one else has anything to say on this topic, I'd like to move on. Jack?
Okay, the next topic is the CMRK Textiles donation update. Give me 1 second.
I'll give you 2.
Thank you, I appreciate it. CMRK home pickups. Share. Well, that ain't working. I thought I could pull it up for you guys so we're all looking at the same thing. Window. Here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yes,
All right.
I think that's very good. I'm
All right,
excited.
I
so
didn't
with
know what was I didn't know what was happening to my screen.
All right, so Tom, I'm sorry you can't see it. This
Yes,
is just
you're just gonna have to describe it in very fine-tuned detail, okay, Jack?
It's our page, it's page 2 of our folder, Tom.
he doesn't get the folder, he gets the emails.
Oh, page 2.
Yeah, I'm having technical difficulties overall with my laptop tonight.
All right, so basically the CMRK household home pickups, as we all know, the Simple Recycling Pink Bag program was stopped in Mendon for lack of funding on their part. So we reached out and we found CMRK, who now does the online pickup for textiles, for clothing and household goods. We signed the contract with them in July, but in the June, we've had, I've reached out to Taylor for how many residents have used it. In June, we had 17 home pickups. July, when we started the contract, we had 13. August, we had 18, September 16, October, we had 16, and November last month, we had 19 home pickups using CMRK. This was advertised only on the Board of Health website and the Mendon, Maine website. Other than that, that's all I have for updates for the home pickup.
Thank you, Jack. Go ahead, Joyce.
I think that it's great, particularly, I mean, a lot of people I don't think realize that the law is in effect from November 1st, that you can no longer put any textiles into the trash. So this is a great avenue for us. Actually, Jack was telling me about a new newspaper that's coming to town. So that will help, I think, get the word out too. I mean, a lot of people don't look at the website, don't see those things. So I think that will help to get more and, people doing that. I'm excited about it.
Anybody else for comment? Alan?
Yes, Jack. In the interim, before this new paper comes out, which is definitely great news, I didn't know if maybe you wanted to reach out directly to someone like Amy down at the senior center. This might be very helpful to a lot of seniors, where they can make arrangements, maybe with the help of someone down at the senior center, if they're not computer savvy, etc. And it might be a way for them to, over a period of time, lighten the load at their homes, where this is, these materials will be picked up right at their door. So I would like to make sure that our senior population, through the senior center, is made aware of this as soon as possible, just in case they don't know about it. Thank you.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, that's
Tom?
a great idea.
Right.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, I was going to say, just to add to that thought and communication, how about something out to the school systems that they could generate at that level to all the families?
Yep, I can do that. Anybody else for comment?
Nope. Good job.
All right. Moving on to number 3, which is the Green Team junk removal. Give me 1 second. Window. All right, can you see that?
Yep.
All right. So Green Team junk removal, with the waistband that went into effect with the textiles, mattresses, the box springs by Mass DEP as of November 1st of this year, people have been complaining, not just in Mendon, but surrounding towns that I've been talking with the Blackstone Valley Collaborative, about the pickup costs for the mattresses and the box springs. As we all know, E.L. Harvey does it with a bulk pickup, and each one is $100 per piece. So if you have a mattress and a box spring, it's going to cost you $200 for E.L. Harvey to pick that up. I did reach out to Green Team Junk Removal, and they're offering the town of Mendon and the Blackstone Valley Collaborative $75, as they do in Westwood and other towns. So I just wanted to check with the board first to see if this is something that I can advertise at the Board of Health, even though E.L. Harvey is our trash people type of thing. I didn't know if this would be like a bad competition type thing.
I personally don't think so. I mean, I think that I'm pretty sure that they'd be happy not to be picking things up. That's why their price is that, but because they also have to get rid of them at the same time. So no, I don't think so. I think this is a good alternative too, and people can do whatever works for them, in my opinion.
Alan?
I'm definitely in agreement with Joyce. Even at $100 per unit, if they're coming to your house with a big truck and at least one employee to pick up a piece of bulk, whether it be a mattress or something else, very difficult to do. I'm sure that if you were to do the math, even what they're providing for us is probably provided to us at almost what it costs them because they hold their contract with us.
Right.
The cost of warehousing that stuff, as you can see, the size of the warehouse in the picture, especially when it comes to bedding, must be a very expensive and difficult thing to do to get them to the point where they can be recycled. I mean, I know it hurts if you have a mattress and box spring and it's $200 to get rid of it. And you didn't take advantage of maybe the furniture company or mattress company that you bought it from, the new one from, to exchange, the old one if that were the case. But I don't see any issues with letting people make their choice and letting them know that there are other options if they choose.
Okay.
So I'm in agreement with Joyce. This is what we have to do now to make sure that things are properly disposed of. So the more options people have, the better. Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, no concerns. I mean, our obligation as a Board of Health is to the community as a whole. So even though we have a contract with EL Hobby for services, that's just a piece of what we do. So I would think anytime we have someone out there that could provide a service to the community and it's a benefit, we should, promote that in every way possible from my perspective.
All right, thank
Jack?
you.
Yep.
All right, so that's all I have for that one. Let's see here. Senior
Jack,
discount.
one moment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Are you going to make that information available on the BOH website?
Yes, I'm going to make it a rolling ad that we have on the BOH website and also a link describing the services that they offer. And once I have that up and running, I'll advertise it out there.
Yeah, actually, some of the items on that list may be things that EL Harvey isn't dealing with at present. So it definitely helps. Sorry to interrupt you. Thank you, Jack.
Nope, no problem at all. All right, give me 1 second. Close that. Senior trash discount. Share window. All right, so the senior trash discount at our last board meeting, we decided that the town census was going to be the way to go for seniors to get their discount. Once the town census is completed for next year and returned back to the town clerk, Ellen is able to give me a report of all census and seniors eligible for the seniors discount, which will automatically be applied to. As you can see, it does show on the Mendon Board of Health main page that we're advertising this, and also on the Board of Health webpage we are advertising this. And if they click the link, they get the whole entire program explaining exactly what needs to be done in order to receive the senior discount for fiscal year 2024. Again, this is all census-based discount for the seniors. So I just want to keep you apprised of that.
Yep.
Alan or Tom?
Once again, great.
Yeah, Alan, you want to go ahead?
Yes. Once again, great job. Love the graphics. Now you always make me laugh.
Well, I used to do marketing and advertising in my previous job.
There you go. Got to
Thanks.
use all those skills. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would just add, yeah, I take it it's something you'll communicate to Amy down at the senior center
Yes.
as well. This would
Yeah,
probably be something, a great
she
thing
already
that they
has
can
that,
put.
she has that scheduled in her January newsletter.
Beautiful.
And I did talk to Ellen. It will be on the census itself that gets mailed out to all residents, that the census has to be returned to get the senior discount trash rate. So that itself will be on the census itself stating that.
That's a good notation as well, yeah.
Next one. All right, the next item on the agenda is the health agent animal inspector vacancy update. Give me 1 second.
I have the Clean Harbors hazardous waste first.
Oh, you do? Did I skip over it? I'm sorry. Yeah, I skipped over it. All right, give me 1 more second.
Sorry.
No, you're right. I just want to be in order. I just got like 6 screens open.
I have my paper trail.
All right, Clean Harbors, hazardous waste day car counts. Got the report last week. And in November, when we had a hazardous waste day, we had 15 full cars, 44 half cars, 23 quarter cars, with a total of 82 cars for the entire day. And I went and took the liberty of to find out what we did in previous years. In 2020, we had 86 cars total. And in August of 2021, we had 108. So we're a little short of what we did in 2020. Again, we were later this year in November, as the other two were in August. But next year, we will be holding it in September. Comments?
I thought it was run very well.
Alan?
Yeah, great job. Thank you very much all for participating. Unfortunately, I had to kind of bail there last minute on you, so I felt bad, but thank you very much for stepping up and taking care of business.
Thank you. Alan?
Yes, no, I definitely think the time of year may have affected the turnout. But I mean, as you can see, we weren't too far off from 2020, which is great to see. Again, I appreciate the graph. And probably material-wise, we were probably about the same. Have we got a bill yet, or do you have a total for what our cost was for that day yet, Jack?
We did get a bill, and it was roughly 5,800 total.
Okay, so that's plenty within what we budgeted.
Correct.
And I know that there was a was it almost $2,500 maybe just for the setup fee?
That includes the setup fee.
Right. But you know, considering that 2,500 of it gets eaten up
Yeah.
just in the setup fee.
Yep.
I know the shredding truck was a little light this year, but again, I'm going to attribute that to the time of year. It was very, very difficult to book them this year, and I appreciate the fact that we've caught on that we have to book more than a year in advance to get the time of year that we are looking for. So I'm sure you have that on your calendar. You know, moving forward is something we need to do. So
Yeah,
thanks
it is.
again, and I look forward.
Good.
I
Yeah,
look
it is
forward
scheduled
to,
next year for
next year.
September 16th.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, everybody.
So just a clarification, Jack,
Yes.
with the, on the money side, just trying to clarify what was stated there. So are you saying that the cost this year, including the setup fee, would be roughly $5,000?
I believe the bill was like 5,800 total, which includes the setup cost.
And That's excellent. I'm just kind of surprised it's so low.
Let me just look for something. Give me 1 second. Just trying to find the invoice itself.
I mean, because we had recently added to our budget for this year quite substantially. Well, I won't look a gift horse in the mouth. I think that's great.
I hope not.
Yeah. No, will I set off a firework too close to a horse either, but.
Yeah, Tom, when I talked with the gentleman that was the lead person on the site that day, I believe he told me that we had a set budget of like 11.3, including the setup fee. And of course, as you know, being involved with this over the last handful of years, that setup fee is steadily increased. $300-400 a year, which I understand. But I know in the very beginning when I first got involved, maybe the setup fee was $1,200, and it's just keeps going up over the last 5, 6, 7 years. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the turnout wasn't as great as we would have hoped for. And obviously that's reflected in the amount of materials. Either that, or we've done such a good job having these things every year that there's that fewer hazardous materials in the households of the town of Mendon. How do you like that story?
Yeah, I think that makes all kinds of sense.
All right, I have it up on the screen. Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Everybody but Tom can see it.
Everybody but me, that's okay.
But what the bottom line is, it's $5,674.
Okay, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Because I think actually our budget that we put in for this past fiscal year, wasn't it like 15,000
Correct.
for this event? Right, okay.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just wondering why we ended up adding more this go around if, it would have to have been exceptionally low this year as far as participation from past years. I know you referenced a couple of past years, Jack, but they seem fairly close to this year. I mean, you're only talking about a 20 car difference, roughly 25 car difference.
Correct.
Yeah, but hey, I'll take that as good news. Thank you.
All right. Alan, do you have your hand raised again?
I do. I apologize.
No, I didn't know if you had something else to say.
I can't help myself. Tom, if you had the opportunity to see the graph that we so graciously have the opportunity to see, I think it's more the amount of materials, the volume of material. So that's why I spoke that, maybe we're doing such a great job that there's just less hazardous material out there, because we've been running these things so faithfully. And, we've made so many people aware of it, that, maybe we're just doing a good job. We always know that the setup fee is going to increase. I'm not so sure sometimes how they count cars. over the years, I know there was one time I was handed a clipboard, given some instructions, and I was counting. This last time when I talked to the lead guy, he looked at me and said, "You're counting, right?" And I said, "No one gave me a clipboard or any instructions." So maybe some of the materials didn't get accounted for until they figured out who was doing the counting this year. Obviously, 2020, we would have expected things to fall off a little bit due to the health concerns that we were dealing with and how people were feeling. But I would, recommend keeping the budget the same, keeping it at the same level that we set it at this year, before we, make any adjustments, because next year with having it in September, we could see a different turnout, and I'm hoping it's going to be a greater turnout for the hazardous waste and for the shredding. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. All right, now the next topic is the part-time health agent position. Let's see. One second. All right, so I did speak with Kona Robichard, who's the representative from the Blackstone Valley Partnership for Public Health, and he said he only knew the one agency that was offering like services for health agents, and the only one is called Mojin Municipalities, but they're only food establishment inspectors. Nothing for animals, nothing for housing. And he says he can't think of anything else but this one for food inspections only. Second. Places I was told to advertise was obviously our own website, website called Mass Municipal Association, and also the Massachusetts organization. It's called MOA. I believe it's for Massachusetts Organization for Health, I believe it's called. But the only thing I can think of as for our advertisement is what we have here. I just wanted to get your thoughts about it for the description.
Well, to me, can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
To me, it seems like it's leaving us still with, a couple of areas that are not serviced. I had a phone call from Mary Watson from the Hopedale Board of Health, and she's wanting to get together to, they want to join with us for all of the things that the restaurants, the tobacco, the animal inspector, all of that sort of thing. They're looking for somebody too, but it seems to be really difficult to find somebody out there.
Alan?
Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you to Lonnie for thinking of the, using a outside contractor, so to speak. I wasn't even thinking that was a possibility. I'm not saying that this is the way to go. However, I would like to get maybe a price list from these guys as to what they charge to inspect a convenience store, what they charge to inspect a restaurant, what they charge to come out and inspect like temporary food permits, etc. Just so that we kind of have a scale of what the cost could be.
Okay.
I'm not saying I want to use something like this on a full-time situation exclusively, but now that we've been made aware of not only the opportunity and the fact that a company does exist that does this stuff, I would like to pursue it a little further and get a little more information. Because if we can't get someone to take the position, we may have no other choice. So I'd
Right.
like to be prepared. And we might have to go that route 1 or 2 rounds while we're still advertising with Hopedale to get someone.
All right.
We can hire an animal inspector separately. We've done that in the past, someone who just does our animal inspections. We had Max Carboni. Before that, I know we had interviewed 2 or 3, I believe they were young ladies. One of them was definitely from the town of Mendon that were interested in doing the job of animal inspector, and had the qualifications to do so. And we had at that time, maybe the stipend was like $2,500, and then we found out that Max was available, and then we raised the stipend. So we can advertise for an animal inspector separately from a health inspector.
Right.
But I would like to see some more information of the pricing for the services listed. But I don't want to abandon working with Hopedale. I just want to make sure that we, now that we know a company exists, we have some options. Thank you.
Okay, Lonnie?
Hi, thanks. So I bumped into, I'm sorry, I didn't bump into him. I was talking to Lenny Izzo on the phone, and he had mentioned that he's feeling better now, and if we're looking for somebody to at least bridge the gap, I believe he's out there. Jack, did he leave you a message, or is he mistaken? He had mentioned that he tried to call the Board of Health to let you guys know that, and I just don't know if the information got to you guys.
I have not received any phone calls, voicemails, or emails from Lenny.
Okay, all right. I'll let him know that we didn't get the information, but I mean it just especially somebody that, even like I said, even if it's temporary to get you guys through, I believe he can handle all of those items. I think he's been our animal inspector at one point. I know he was our health agent for quite some time, and also was able to even, I think he's also qualified to do trench inspections and whatnot for septic. Again, in a pinch, if you needed somebody, at least it's somebody that's local, and again, might bridge that gap while we talk with Hopedale as well, if it's an option for you guys. Just wanted to make sure that info was out there.
All right, thank you. Joyce?
And the other thing is that, I mean, he lives in Hopedale, so that might, that might facilitate them as well. If I don't know if they know that he's out there looking to do that or not, but I mean, we have the trench inspection. Stephen Donatelli does all that stuff for us, so we wouldn't need him for that. But we definitely need somebody to do the rest of the things. And I don't know if, he'd be interested in doing a double duty there or not.
Tom, do you have any input?
Well, it sounds like we're covering the avenues that we can cover. From an advertising perspective, position-wise, what have been the methods we've been advertising the positions out on?
I haven't been advertising anything as of yet because we were still discussing on what we needed. I don't have an actual health agent advertisement from HR. She couldn't find anything on that. So that's why I sent everybody what I think would be put in for it, to get everybody's input to see if that's what we need or don't need, or I got stuff wrong on it.
Well, if we're in agreement of the description, is that still, are you saying that description of the role is in question still, or?
No, I think that's perfect. That whole part-time health agent description, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I was just copy and pasting from other job descriptions that I found, like on Indeed and other town websites. So I just copy and pasted what I think would be reasonable, but I didn't know if you guys had any input, or like, oh, you're missing this, or well, take this out type of thing.
No, it looks to me like you've got it all covered.
Alan?
Yes, I agree. I thought it looked really good, and I thought maybe you had gotten it from HR. I didn't give you enough credit, Jack.
I
Little
also did
disappointed
HR
that
my
they
past
didn't-
job.
There you go. Drawing on all the years of schooling you attended. You know, I guess if we ran it by HR just to make sure that they're happy with what we have here. I think the only thing that I noticed was the required driver's license. They're not driving one of our vehicles. So I don't know how how necessary that is, but I guess it is good to know that you have a licensed driver under hire. But where they're not, and again, you know, we do have the option of separating the animal inspector out if we had to. So I wouldn't want to see someone see this application and not have the animal inspector qualifications and not give us an opportunity to talk to them. So maybe if we could make that part kind of an additional option, if we were fortunate enough to get someone that had those qualifications.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of the team feels about that. But you know, other than that, I thought it looked great. I don't know if HR has to put their seal of approval on it, but we definitely need to get it out there. And you know, try to get some applicants. And I certainly want to do everything we can to work with Hopedale. They've been, you know, very open to working with us. I want to keep that moving forward if possible. Thank you.
Okay, Tom, anything else?
Well, just if that's, it sounds like everyone's in agreement on the role. So I would say we should, you know, it'd be nice to do something with Hopedale, but I wouldn't want us to see us waiting and waiting and waiting. I think we need to do what we need to do to advertise it out in other ways as well. You know, I like the point if we think that separating out the animal inspection duties instead of incorporating it as part of the role as a kind of a, you know, nice to have type of thing, but the main focus of the role might be more of the food inspection, you know, that piece of it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I would agree to do that. I would say, yes, let's get it out there.
Any thoughts from the board about the Lenny Izu possibility?
I'm open to having a conversation with him, by all means. He's done a lot of great service for us in the past, and I think it's a matter of him probably coming to a board meeting, participating in the conversation if he's able to do that.
Okay, Alan?
I'm in total agreement with that. You know, Lenny is definitely well known in the world of municipal health. And he has done a lot of great work for us in the past. I think I'm most happy to hear that he's feeling better. I know that, you know, it was a rather difficult thing to deal with and a long rehab. And I know that it was, you know, tough on him. So I'm glad to hear that, you know, he's feeling much better. I haven't run into him in a while. I kind of miss running into him. But you know, he was always fair to us, and you know, hopefully he'd be willing to you know, work for Hopedale also. But you know, we'd have to have that discussion with him and let him know, you know, what's available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lonnie?
Yeah, so one other thing too on the regionalization part of it, or sorry, maybe we call it shared services is probably the better idea. Kim has been doing a lot of work with that, with a lot of the area towns. So maybe Jack, and I'm not by any means, I'm not directing anybody here. I'm just kind of giving my thought that maybe just touch base with her to see if the other communities she's working with, and again, Hopedale fits in our wheelhouse. It's probably one of the best towns around, but I know that we're doing some things with Blackstone right now, And I know that, she's always reaching out to Upton and Uxbridge as well. So if there is just other options, or maybe even 3 towns sharing, I know that that's what we're looking at with the planner right now, and that's a huge savings. So, and it gives the applicant more work and a better salary. And then the towns, obviously, I don't have to tell you the benefits of shared services, but in instances like this, it could really help. So don't just look at just Hopedale alone, and Kim may be able to be a good resource for that.
All right, thank you. Joyce, any comment?
No, I think Lonnie's thoughts are well taken. I think it's important to try to get, to get it done, sooner than later, for sure,
All right, anybody else have any comments on this topic? I'm gonna take that as a no, so we're gonna move on to number 7, which is the dumpster permit application format. As we all talked about, we have dumpster regulations coming into effect on January 1st of next year, but we actually do not have an actual permit for our dumpsters created yet. So I gave everybody some information what other towns have for temporary dumpsters, and just looking for ideas on how and what we want on our form for people to fill out to get a temporary dumpster permit in the town of Mendon. So, Alan, go ahead.
I still like what the town of Upton has on their permit. And it seems to have everything, and even the 90-day limit with the extension is, we sort of liked that idea in the beginning. I thought it was fairly complete. So I'm backing something similar to the town of Upton.
Okay,
Thank you.
Joyce
yeah, I agree.
and Tom.
I'll go with it.
All right.
Since we're on the topic of dumpster permits / dumpster regulations in general, something I wanted to put out there, and I don't know if Jack, you have a copy, or Alan or Joyce, you have copies of the draft in front of you for what was going to go into effect on January 1.
I can pull it up online.
Yeah, what I wanted to determine, and I didn't think we had, and this would be in follow-up to a conversation that I had with Jim McQuaid at Mass DEP regarding regulations. I was looking to have us incorporate something that I don't believe we have in place now, and I wasn't sure if we need to wait until after the January 1 date to do any kind of modification, or if we could do any kind of changes between now and then, seeing as how they're new regulations. I wasn't sure of the protocol there.
Anything specific to the regulations now?
Well, just that I'd be looking to incorporate into them a particular statement with regard to material, and something to the effect of that only material generated on the parcel can be placed into the dumpster / container. No material generated from other sites can be accepted to a dumpster or container which is not located on the parcel from which the material originated. And that would sort of fall in line with what Mass DEP kind of has out there at the state level.
Okay.
And Jim thought that would be kind of a nice alignment of local and state guidelines. I'll throw it out there for discussion.
Alan?
I'm on board with that. However, I am not aware of what the procedure is to do that. It's certainly not part of the document that we adopted at the public hearing. So I'm going to make the assumption that that would be something that we would have to do at a later date. But I'm all for it. I like it. and, you know, I just don't know what the proper procedural is to incorporate that. Thank you.
I can double check with Ellen unless Lonnie knows off the top of his head. If he would have any insight on that. But I could ask Ellen. She usually knows the ins and outs of regulations and when to amend it and when a public meeting is needed or whatnot. Joyce, do you have any comments?
You know, I don't know what the proper thing is right at the moment. I would think that you should be able to just add that, but you know, I'm always surprised at what isn't, you know, what's required. So.
All right. All right,
Yeah.
I'll double check with Ellen to find out what the ins and outs are for amending regulations. Tom, if you could email me that wording, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, can do.
Thank you. All right, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, whatever we do, I just wouldn't want it to hold up the effective date of January 1st, where we have nothing at this time. Thank you.
And I just wanted to confirm with the board, the dumpster permit application, if they're licensed already, say E.L. Harvey, a person wanting a dumpster from E.L. Harvey still has to complete this and pay the permit fee regardless if their license amended or not.
Right.
Some towns do. That's what I was thinking when I gave everybody applications. Some towns do it regardless if your license in Mendon or wherever. If you want a dumpster, it has to be licensed in the town, but you still have to pay the additional fee. So, Alan?
Yeah, I'm not so sure on that. I thought that only if they're not already, the hauler is not already licensed to haul in town, that they would pay that additional permit fee. If they're already licensed, it's my understanding, and I know we've had this discussion. If they're already licensed, they don't have to pay that permit fee. However, I still think they should pull a permit, because I want to make sure that the homeowner is being made aware of the time constraints and the proper use of the dumpster. So it's sort of a shared responsibility between the user, whether it be a homeowner or a contractor, and the hauling company. But I believe the ultimate responsibility is actually on the licensed trash hauler. The fee would be paid by someone who got a call to place a dumpster in town that only occasionally does business in town, or let's say a roofing company that has their own dumpster and they pull a building permit to do a roof. They also pull a dumpster permit because they're not a licensed hauler. They're using their own truck with a dumpster on it for that particular job. That's my understanding. And I know we sort of hashed this out in the past, and I thought that we're coming to the same result. But I would rely on my team members to affirm or disaffirm that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What you're saying, that makes sense.
Tom?
Well, I was actually thinking a little different. It's, at minimum, it's a requirement that these entities be licensed by the town. But then I was under the belief that per occasion, there would be a fee for the dumpster at that particular site. That was my thought, because it doesn't matter how often somebody hauls, even if it's one time, you're technically supposed to be, you know, licensed by the town to do it. I wasn't distinguishing it in that manner myself.
Alan, you look.
Yeah, I know that we talked about this, and if a new company that isn't licensed in town doesn't have an annual awful permit, finds that they're doing business in town, then it would be less expensive and make more sense for them to apply for an annual permit. If they apply for an annual permit, as long as they follow the regulations, just like anybody else, we're good. Or if the homeowner or contractor doing business in town calls someone that's already licensed, then we're all set. But we know we found occasionally in the past, there's been dumpster companies that aren't licensed in town, and this gives them the option to do just a one-time permit. You know, maybe it's a homeowner that came from a different area that calls the dumpster company that they know about from the area they are, you know, they lived in previously, or it's a contractor that's doing a job in town that doesn't normally do jobs out this way, and they call their go-to dumpster people. Because we know in the past we've seen dumpster companies dropping dumpsters in town that aren't familiar to us, so we go into the office or call into the office, and we find out that they don't have a permit in town, and that's why we're not familiar with the name on the dumpster. This gives them an option to do a one-time fee and to follow our regulations rather than do the annual fee. So again, I may be off base, but that's how I remember the result of our previous conversations. Thank you.
That sounds kind of difficult. That sounds kind of difficult to track.
Thoughts, Alan, Joyce?
Well,
Joyce?
I'm thinking about it. I hear what Alan's saying, and I hear what Tom is saying. And I think that, you know, I think when they're in that business, they know they have to get some kind of a permit, and that's before they can do any of that stuff. It would seem to me that, you know, of course, I'm sort of a dreamer too, so you know, I'd like to think that, you know, if the person is just doing one time, that they could just do a one-time thing. They're doing it for because, as you say, they know the client.
All right, I have Dan Byer with his hand raised. Dan?
So I only see part of the document. My only suggestion is perhaps you set the fee. You could say the fee, you'll waive the fee if they have a hauler's license on file with the town or something. That might be the way to, you know, everybody gets this permit and then the fee is dependent on something else.
And we
I
do
don't know if
not
that
have a
helps or
fee.
not, but-
We currently do not have a fee for this permit. So does the board want to set a fee?
You mean for the haulers, the annual haulers permit?
No, the dumpster permit application, temporary dumpster permit.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
well, I guess,
sorry.
go ahead, Joyce.
I think that's probably, that probably would make sense.
I have Lonnie with his hand raised. Lonnie?
And so these are temporary permits for residents, right? I feel like, and even if the permit's $10, I just feel like we permit feed people to death on top of all the taxes that they are already currently paying. This is just a permit to keep people honest, right?
Correct.
At the end of the day, and maybe it's my conservative mindset. I just feel that, like I said, we're constantly adding fees on top of what we're already charging people, you know, to live in the community. If it was for And then but we're not gonna charge for a hauler's permit, unless I'm wrong, there might be a fee for that. Or to have a hauler's license on file. I just feel like if it's just a fee, so we know, sorry, it's just a permit so that we can keep track of what's going on. Like I said, keeping people honest, that they're not having dumpsters on their property at all times. And to just add another fee to that just makes it that much more painful.
Alan? You're on mute.
Sorry. I agree. And when we talked about this, we knew we weren't going to be collecting a lot of money, and that wasn't our goal. Our goal was to give people rules and regulations based on a number of years of different issues that we've been trying to deal with, where we had no regulations. So now it's in black and white what the rules are. What the rules are for anybody that has a trash hauler's permit in town to haul trash and place dumpsters on an annual basis. And that fee hasn't changed. The only time we would be collecting any type of a fee on the permit would be that occasional resident, contractor, or dumpster company that decides to drop a dumpster in town that does not have an annual dumpster permit on file and didn't already pay that annual fee. Let's just take for example, I remember when they were doing work down the Legion Hall, Dumpster Divers was down there. And AJ and I and Tom were on the board, and Missy made a call to Dumpster Divers and said, hey, listen, you don't have an awful permit, dumpster permit in the town of Mendon. And we got a lot of pushback. And for a very small fee, in today's time, after January 1st, for a very small fee, they're more than welcome to have that dumpster there, apply to abide by the rules that we have in effect, or they can purchase, and this is the offer made to them, an annual permit and put a dumpster in Mendon as long as they abide by the rules and regulations anytime they want. And we came across situations like that on a pretty regular basis. And this is to make sure that those people that drop a dumpster in Mendon on an occasional basis pay a very small fee and are aware of the rules. So if the occasional homeowner has to come in and fill out a permit to have a dumpster on their property for a residential remodeling job, or the contractor doing the job has to pull an occasional permit, it's going to be the homeowners aren't going to be paying a lot of permits fees. That's not what we were trying to do. We were trying to make sure that everybody is aware of the rules that they need to abide by when a dumpster is on their property. So that goes for trash haulers, that goes for any type of contractor doing any type of work on a property in the town of Mendon, and for the property owners, whether it be residential or business. I anticipate collecting very, 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 very small amounts. Occasionally we'd get someone who's doing a one-time situation, because we didn't want to put an extra burden on people. We just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of the rules that are going to be in existence on January 1st. So I think that, there should be a small fee on there, but not everybody's going to pay it, because most people are going to call the Board of Health, or most people in town are already going to be aware of the fact that if you pull someone off the list that is on the Board of Health website, you're hiring someone who's licensed to haul in the town of Mendon. Thank you.
Joyce?
So I may be under a misunderstanding here, because I thought the focus of the dumpster regulations was for the vendor, not for the homeowner, that the responsibility would be to the vendor. So I'm not asking a homeowner to pay anything for a fee. I'd be looking at potentially the vendor.
Right,
who's pulling the
exactly.
permit to the fee.
I think that's what Alan is saying as well. And what we're doing is we're just making sure that, I mean, there's nothing more common in my world where somebody says, oh, I didn't know the rule was that. I didn't know I could only have it for 90 days. I thought I could have it for the whole year because, you know, so I think that's something that we, I think that's something that we should do because that makes everybody know what the rules are. I think that that's important. Hey, a $10 fee.
Alan? You're on mute. You might as well leave that thing off mute.
Stop pushing buttons, Alan.
Hey, listen, do you really think I know what I'm doing? Yeah, no, I mean, as far as the dumpster hauler that doesn't have an annual permit, that
Correct.
is going to contract with a homeowner, contractor, whatever, to put a dumpster on someone's property, it's between them and the user to work out who pays the fee. But, you know, if I'm thinking more like maybe $25, because a lot of times it's going to be the dumpster hauler that's putting the dumpster on the ground temporarily, one shot deal in the town of Mendon, based on what we charge for an annual permit, just to be fair and equitable to our annual permit haulers. And it's up to the dumpster company and the user to negotiate who pays the fee. I mean, let's face it, if the contractor pays the fee, somehow they're passing it on with the price of the dumpster.
Correct.
I mean,
Well, when we
but
did these
we're not
regulations,
looking.
when we did these regulations, sorry for interrupting, the entire focus was on the vendor. There was no onus at all being put to the owner, which was my concern initially when we were going to do these. And so the total focus that I was led to believe was on the vendor, not the homeowner. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to now say when it comes to a fee that now the vendor and the homeowner have to negotiate who pays it. My belief, it should be the vendor who pays it if we do a fee,
Right.
not the homeowner. And to Lonnie's point about taxes, that's why I'm saying that I don't want to see something else be levied on the homeowner. But to the vendor, that's a different story. That's a business expense.
Right.
And
I agree with you and I agree with Alan. And I do believe that the homeowner is going to pay it one way or the other, but I think that the guy that's doing the job should pay for it. But if you think that he's not going to add it on to their bill, you know, that's another story. And we don't care about that.
Right, and I absolutely do believe you pass on the cost of business. That happens all the time in every trade. You never actually know, but the official onus was my understanding was to go to the vendor, that there'd be no onus at all on the property owner, that all the rules and the guidelines and anything that had to do with the regulations, it was up to the company to be responsible, to be aware of that, and to be held accountable if they weren't, not the homeowner.
Right, I agree.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Alan?
okay.
Alan?
Yes. Yes, if I remember correctly, we were at the library that night.
Yep.
And Daniel, we asked him that question because, you know, obviously he did a great job helping us draft these. And yes, the onus, if you want to call it that, is on the trash hauler. That's the person who is in the business of hauling trash.
Correct.
So if they go and pick a dumpster up and there's C&D in there with a bunch of household trash and a mattress, etc., it's up to the trash hauler to tell the homeowner that that's a no-go. The only time the homeowner or the contractor that's doing the remodeling job or whatever would get involved, someone other than the trash hauler, is when we have a complaint and we respond to the complaint and we say to the user, this doesn't fall within the guidelines. And of course, they're gonna discuss that with their trash hauler. And there's gonna be a resolution to it. Because the trash hauler's not gonna be able to get rid of that load when they get to the transfer station. So the whole reason for drafting these rules was just so that we could, if we had a complaint, we had a mechanism to deal with the complaint. It was not to generate more money, other than in the opportunity that when a licensed, when someone who is not licensed to haul trash on an annual basis in the town of Mendon wanted to put a dumpster in Mendon. But you're right, the responsibility, the ultimate responsibility for compliance is on the trash hauler. They're the ones that hold the license, whether it be annual or whether it be a one-shot deal. Thank you.
Hey, Tom.
It sounds like we have some inconsistency here, in my view, between the one-shot deal and the person who does a lot of hauling and pulls an annual permit. It seems like it's still something a little. We have a gap here, in my view, I think. And I'm not about the money. It's not about a money-generating function at all. I'd be perfectly fine if you just want to have the application to be filled out and confirmed. And I actually kind of surprised. I didn't realize that there was no annual fee for hauling permits on an annual basis. I thought everything we pretty much did annually had a fee to it.
No, we do have a annual permit for trash hauling in Mendon. It's $100 per year.
Okay, we do. Okay. Yeah. So earlier it sounded like there was no fees. Maybe I misunderstood what somebody was saying.
Right, yeah.
So we do have a fee for the annual permit.
Right.
We do, yes.
Okay, yeah. So was the intent then not to, so this application is designed for every occurrence that somebody wants to put a dumpster on their property for some work, right? That's the idea of this dumpster permit that we're talking about.
No,
It's not.
not my understanding. My understanding was this, the only time that a fee or a temporary permit would come into effect is when a trash hauler who is not licensed on an annual basis in the town of Mendon wants to put a dumpster legally on a property in Mendon for a period of time and does not hold an annual license. So therefore, they would pay a small fee because they are not licensed to do business in Mendon. So the only time that a permit fee would come into effect is for that purpose. However, someone fills out, whether it be homeowner, contractor, other than a trash hauler, fills out a permit. If they're doing business with a licensed hauler in the town of Mendon, there is no fee. However, if they fill out that permit, there's no reason not to make them aware of the rules and regulations in the town of Mendon, especially where these are just going into effect in January. So everything you're saying, Tom, is correct. And I thought we had hashed that out before we even had the public hearing. So I'm trying to figure out where the gap is. And if there is a gap, then we shouldn't be putting these into effect. But I wasn't aware there was one.
Well, it just seems we have a couple of different scenarios here. So we have a scenario where we have haulers who pull an annual, and then we have a scenario where somebody doesn't want to pull one because they don't do enough, they think they don't do enough work annually. So because they're not permitted in the town on an annual basis, these are the entities that are going to have to pull a permit.
Right.
And for this onesie, twosie type of occasion.
Right, exactly.
Other than that, their annual permit automatically will cover them because they're permitted in the town.
Correct.
And so they just need to be aware of the regulations, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yep, perfect,
Okay.
you got it.
Yeah,
All right,
okay.
we do have a question. where it says, what will be in place for the situation where someone would be wanting multiple or constant extensions? I
thought
can
we
answer that, or
decided
somebody
that-
could.
Yeah, I thought we decided that that was at the discretion of the board. We would take that into effect, so, into account, so that someone who's doing a remodeling job applies for the permit, has the dumpster for 90 days, and finds out that the job's not done in 90 days. They have the ability to get an extension, but it's, Board of Health discretion, case by case. And there'd be no reason to grant an extension provided there were no infractions. If there were infractions, then we would have grounds to, decide whether or not we want to extend, give them an extension. If someone is doing business with a licensed hauler that has an annual license, the dumpster still can't stay on a resident's property indefinitely, because that's when we end up with issues, whether it complaints about rodents, complaints about trash flying out of the dumpster, complaints about dumpster juice, complaints about when they were changing the dumpster out, and all that we covered in the regulations. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Joyce? I'm sorry, Tom.
I agree. I think that it's, they have a permit for a special time, and they have to adhere to it unless there's extenuating circumstances, and then we're giving them a little more leeway, but it's not a forever permit just to keep on going. So it's expressly for that job that they're doing, and once the job is done, it has to go. They can get an extension. However, that it's not a forever dumpster.
All right, thank you. Tom?
Well, I was just gonna say, so 90 days is the base minimum.
Correct.
Okay.
Let me just double check on that.
Yeah, I believe so, because I believe we kind of hashed that out.
Right.
We looked at some towns that had 30, and we tried to take into account what the current status of the world is for someone doing some sort of remodeling job, especially if you're doing, the bathrooms, kitchens type stuff, where you're depending upon multiple kinds of materials showing up from multiple vendors. We all know or have heard stories of people that not everything comes when it's supposed to. So I believe that was why we decided 90 days.
Right.
All right, so I just want to clarify, for 90 days, it's 60 days initial with a 30-day extension, correct?
Correct.
All
Yeah.
right, good.
There you go.
Yeah, because that's
So-
what it has on the regulations. It's 60
Yeah.
days initial, and
Yeah.
after 60 days, you need to come before the board before an extension for an additional 30.
Right.
All right, just wanted to
Right,
clarify.
so 90 is not the base minimum. So 90
No,
is the total.
That's the total if they
Right.
need an extension.
Right. Okay, I just want folks who are listening to understand that there's a base minimum and then there's an extension period request
Right.
that would have to be, I just don't want folks to believe that it's 90 minimum and then you come if you need an extension
yeah.
beyond that.
It's not a forever permit. That's it.
Well, correct. No,
Yeah,
right. And that's
right,
the
yeah,
whole idea behind
Right, exactly.
doing the regulations. Yep.
Yeah.
So we don't have any interest then really in the board knowing that there is dumpster activity going on around town. We would just want to be responding to any potential complaint. Would that be the understanding here?
Well, currently with the, if I may, currently with building going on in the town of Mendon, Viewpoint gets notified from the Board of Health standpoint. And one of the questions on there is, are you having a dumpster on the property? Yes or no? And if it's yes, you have to say who it is. I do check the list to compare it. If it's not a trash hauler licensed in the town of Mendon, I respond back to the person of the property saying, hey, this person's not licensed. You need to pick from one of my lists. or you have to have them apply for a permit in the town of Mendon. And usually they pick from another a licensed vendor in Mendon, but we do get notified if there's a dumpster on the property through Viewpoint.
Okay, yeah, that was the point of the question, because if we're not gonna really be concerned about permitting per se, other than an entity who wants to do a one-off, who doesn't have an annual, it sounds like there's a mechanism though that we have to kind of keep a quote unquote, a level of knowledge as to what's happening out there.
Right.
So for example, if we wanted to kind of, do kind of a quote unquote spot check, let's say like we do a tobacco sting. Let's say we wanted to just do a spot check somewhere just to, kind of make sure everything's going well at a particular location. That was my thought behind asking the question.
No, absolutely. And we sort of do that. I mean, just the fact that we live in town, and we notice a lot of times when there's a dumpster that we haven't seen before. And this is how it's been handled in the past, even though we had no regulations. I know there were a lot of times that AJ would call in and say, hey, XYZ company, they're not familiar to me. Do they have a trash haulers permit in town? And get the feedback. And then I know there was someone on Blackstone Street. I can't remember the trash hauler, but when I found out that the trash hauler wasn't licensed in town, kind of confirmed my belief. I talked to the contractor on site. He called his dumpster company and it got taken care of. So, we do have an awareness with the building department as to what's going on in town, who has a dumpster, who doesn't have a dumpster. When someone pulls a permit to put a new roof on, etc. That's all kind of tracked because we want to make sure that, the stuff's being disposed of properly. I'm not saying that the Board of Health always has their hands in that. But we definitely know. And I mean, let's face it, the reason that we had to come up with dumpster regulations is to handle the problem dumpsters. And I hope with dumpster regulations in place, there's a broader awareness of the rules of having a dumpster on someone's property, whether it be the user or the trash hauler. And that it just makes the number of problem dumpsters that much smaller. And if there is a problem dumpster, we can cite a regulation, a section of the regulations to get it cleaned up.
All right, I do have a question. So does the 60-day start as 1/1 for existing dumpsters? So currently, people that have dumpsters on their property, they need to submit a permit, correct? As a 1/1?
Only if they're dealing with a hauler that doesn't have an annual license in town.
Okay,
If they're dealing with an E.L. Harvey or JR Disposal or any of the other people on that list, other than, making sure you abide by the regulations, there's no need to pull a permit. There's no need to pay a fee.
okay.
So,
Question,
well, so if the annual people are paying a fee, we're not gonna charge the one-timer to pay a fee?
No,
We
we are.
are charging it. Yeah.
I mean, if they already have a dumpster dropped in town, let's say they dropped the dumpster in December and it's still on the ground in January, we're gonna have to kind of figure out how to get them notified. And we've been doing that right along. Like I said, whenever we've been driving through town, if we see a dumpster that is a name on the dumpster that's not familiar to us, we question the office,
Jack?
the Board of Health office.
yeah, I do have another question that popped up. So how do you know when the 60-day begins?
Jack,
Yes,
do we notify all the all the haulers that are licensed with the new rules? Do we send them a copy of all the new rules?
Yes, we did.
Right, so that would be, I think, that they would know that they would have to, you know, do their time thing, know that they have a certain time and how much they can go on and, right? Am I, you
I
know,
sent them copies of the actual regulations.
right, so they would know then that what has to happen, right?
All right, so the question
And-
was, so how do you know when the 60-day begins?
Well, that's on the onus of the trash hauler. And if we needed to request that information, we should be able to call the trash hauler if someone were to issue a complaint and find out the date and time that dumpster was dumped. They have a dispatch list. So if someone were to call us and make a complaint and say, hey, listen, that dumpster's been on this property for 65 days, fine, we'll call the dumpster company, talk to the dispatcher, and find out when that dumpster was dropped and confirm, when that dumpster was dropped. Again, these rules and regulations are going to deal with the problem dumpsters.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Well, what I'm thinking of is because the rules are just going in January 1, then everything starts January 1. It doesn't go back. If they ever had a dumpster there for 60 days, that we don't have anything to say, well, you're not in line with the rules because the rules weren't there then. So now we have to the rules start January 1st, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
January
I
1st.
would agree with that, right.
Okay.
I would agree.
All right.
Yep.
So, I mean, to me, that's okay. So from now on, we're playing a new game and they have to know the rules and bing, bam, boom.
Yeah, so somebody's already had it there for 60 days. Come January 1, they technically get another 60 days.
Correct.
Yeah, and then if they have to go beyond that, that's when the discussion happens about, the
Right.
need for an extension, right?
Right.
No, that would be fair.
Okay.
And I would say, I'm going to make the assumption that if it's a problem dumpster, neighbors are watching.
Right.
And that's when we're going to be alerted. Or we may have a dumpster hauler call us and say, hey, listen, I've told this person they can't put this stuff in the dumpster. They keep putting it in the dumpster. Can you make them aware of the regulations because I'm getting nowhere? And we would make the user aware of the regulations. That it wasn't just the dumpster hauler telling them, giving them a line. So again, it's going to be the problem dumpsters that are going to generate our involvement. And
Right.
we may have to do a little investigating, like I said, by calling the company and finding out exactly when that dumpster was dropped there. It's not going to be an exact science. And as Joyce brought up, January 1st, we're kind of starting a whole new game.
Right.
So it's going to take a little bit of time to get everybody into the rotation.
Well, if the hauler were having a problem with a particular content of a dumpster, wouldn't they just simply refuse to haul it away because there's a violation and just not take it away?
Well, that's possible, but then we end up with a problem dumpster that becomes our problem because the dumpster's there longer than it should be.
Well, it would become an enforcement action of, okay, you're gonna have to take out whatever's in the dumpster that shouldn't be there, has to be removed, right?
Right. And in some cases, probably the dumpster company is going to be able to handle that themselves. And other times they may ask us for assistance, and that's what we're there for.
Correct.
Okay, I have Lonnie Tinio with his hand raised.
Yeah, sorry. So, I mean, isn't it up to the dumpster company to make that decision of what they're gonna take and if you fill it full of mattresses and they take it away, then that's up to them to have to deal with it, right? It's not up to the town to police that, right?
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, these rules and regulations are going to be our backbone for enforcing and correcting problem dumpsters. There are going to be a lot of dumpsters in town, just like there have over the years, that there's never been a problem with, because everybody does what they're supposed to do to be a good neighbor. In the past, with no regulations, we had no real backbone to go back to handle those problem dumpsters. And I'm hoping that we're not going to have a lot of problem dumpsters. But now we have, and Tom, uses the Massachusetts laws very well. It gives us something to cite. This is why you're getting a phone call and being told you need to clean this up. And we can cite that section of the regulation. Thank you.
And one other thing too, if if these rules and regs, they're brand new, if they might be a little fluid here in the beginning while you fine tune things, if we got to go back and adjust and, have another hearing to either add or take away something because it's just not working right, we have that ability to. They're not, it's not a stone we're slamming in the ground and saying you have to live by this. If they need to be fixed, we can definitely fix them.
That's correct. That's like the example I was citing earlier about looking to implement this added element into the regulations. It was just a matter of whether or not we had to first let them take effect January 1, or if anything could be done prior to. I suspect we'd probably have to wait until January 1 because we've approved already a draft version. Then that takes effect January 1, and then anything after that we want to modify, such as the example I brought up earlier, we do it after the fact, that's all. But absolutely, it's a work in progress, yeah.
All right, if there's no other comments on this topic, I'd like to close it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next topic of the agenda is Title V failure compliance protocols. I received a public records request asking me for the entire year on all the Title V's, how many have failed in the town of Mendon. Out of the ones that I have received and gone through for the entire year, we've only had 2. So when I was talking with Tom yesterday, I'm like, what do we do when a Title V comes in as a failure? What should be done? And so I'm just looking for ideas or comments. I did find a letter from Missy that I found that says, the Mendon Board of Health has received a Title V official inspection report that the property you own has failed inspection. Please notify the Mendon Board of Health within 30 days of this letter as to how you intend to bring the system into compliance. So I didn't know if that's standard protocol or if there's something more that needs to be done. Alan?
No, I like that. I didn't know it was something that was already in existence. I think the only question I had, and maybe Tom has the ability to massage this, is after the underlined sentence, something about as to how you intend to bring the system into compliance. For some reason, that just doesn't seem to flow well. So I didn't know if maybe Tom could massage that a little better.
Yeah, we can adjust the wording a bit. I know what you're saying. We're basically just looking to determine a course of action.
I would say what you intend to do to bring this system into compliance. To that sentence was it as how you intend to do, but I would say what you intend to do to bring this system into compliance.
Should we offer assistance, recommendations?
No, I think that
okay.
I think they need to get to know that their system has failed somehow because someone told them it failed, and it wouldn't be it wouldn't be Joe Blow the rag picker that was out there just doing anything. It would be someone who's got some, testing
license.
ability. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think the end of that sentence should say to this letter as to what you intend to do to bring this system into compliance. And you have 30 days, within 30 days from this letter to tell us that, you know, and then make sure that we know what's going on, and then we follow up on that.
Tom?
Yeah, works for me.
All right, now this should, go ahead.
Offhand, I'm sorry, offhand, does anybody know what the state says, or what the time limit is to fix a failed system, or does it depend upon what has failed?
I have Lonnie with his hand raised. Lonnie?
I don't have an answer to that question, but this is 9 Main Street. Is this the gray, sorry, the brown house right next to the church?
No, I'm
The-
sorry. 9 Main Street is another topic underneath the same heading.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Which parcel are we talking about now?
We're not talking about a parcel, we're just talking about when a property has failed, that we advise them that your property that has failed, and according to Title V inspection, the septic system has failed inspection. Please
Okay.
notify the board within 30 days of the date of this letter as to what you intend to do to bring the system into compliance.
Got it, thanks.
Yeah. So I think that's a good letter. I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Unless you get a bevy of complaints from all the neighbors saying there's sewage running down my backyard.
Right, and that was my point, because I know a lot of times you can purchase a piece of property that hasn't passed Title V, but that doesn't mean it's failed. And I believe you had like 2 years to upgrade the system to meet Title V. So that's a little different from a system that's failed. So like I said, I didn't know if it depended upon the degree of failure as to the time limit the state gave you to fix it. And I see something on my screen
Right, yeah,
here.
right, yep, right there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I got this from. There's
Well, I
some
think-
state
I think-
website.
Right.
I think the
Yep.
only other description other than failure is, aside from, well, 2 other descriptions that I'm aware of. Failure, of course, passing, and conditional passing.
Correct. We have, so
Right.
you can't see that because we have that up here. That's right, yeah. We have that on our screens. And the conditional pass is, you have a certain amount of time, and a fail is you have to have it done in, you know, a specific allotted time, right? Yeah,
I can work with Steve Donatelli to give us more detail on what should happen if it's if it's a D box or if it's the whole entire system.
right.
Yeah, it seems like some of it is very dependent upon what the failure is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
as I was reading that, you could have up to 2 years to fix the failure.
Right.
If it doesn't pose an immediate public health
Right,
hazard. So that answers my question. Thank you.
yeah.
Tom?
Nope, nothing more to add. That's my understanding as well too, that on a transfer of property, you'd have, 2 years to address it. And then, of course, then if the board became aware, this is where the tracking mechanism kind of comes in for those things, right? So, as we track them, we just want to be at the point if something comes to that end point of time, we'd probably just want to be able to kind of reach out, with a letter notification to the homeowner, making them aware that, we understand the system is not in compliance, and what Joyce says, because it'd have to be something that would have to come from them to explain, why it hasn't been addressed. And I believe that the board can opt to, if there's a valid reason, to extend it, is it one more year, Joyce or Alan? Is that correct?
I thought
sure
that was
that,
Title V compliance. Because
Right,
didn't we do
yeah.
that? Didn't we do that on Northbridge Road because they couldn't get a contractor in there due to COVID or whatever it was? And the ground being wet, I think we did that. We gave a 1-year extension to be Title V compliant, but that's different from a failure.
right.
So a
I
failure,
would think if
would
they had a
be the-
failure, they'd want to get that fixed pretty quick because that's back up
Right.
into the house and all kinds of stuff.
well, again, that would be dependent upon exactly what the failure is and whether or
Correct.
not, if I read that correctly, it's a public health, an immediate public health
Right,
hazard.
right.
All right, Jack.
All right. So 9 Main Street septic system update. I did reach out to the septic system installer. Darling Wells just decommissioned the well that they were waiting on. So I just got the paperwork back on Monday from Darling Wells saying that the well has been decommissioned. So they were just waiting, the septic installer was just waiting on that well to be decommissioned before they could start any work. And he said once he had that paperwork, they were going to start either the end of this week or early next week on 9 Main Street for the new septic system.
What are they gonna do about a well?
They already have another well permit application
Oh, they
already.
do. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, just checking.
Yep. Now, if they have a new well application, well decommission application, and a septic application. So the well decommission is all done.
Good.
But the
Tom?
new well hasn't been, so you're saying a new well is gonna be drilled, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, that hasn't started yet.
Let me double check my paperwork.
And also I would ask, is this something that is before Tom Ryder, this property?
I know Tom Ryder has spoke on this address in the past. I know it's on his radar.
Yeah, I just want to make sure he's, current on all the latest and greatest.
If I remember correctly, this property's been a little bit of trouble for some time now, not just, like, I want to say a couple of years.
Is that the Brown House?
Yeah, it's the house next to the church there
Baptist
with
church?
the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Baptist church, yeah.
Yeah, the issue goes back to at least last spring, Lonnie, anyway, but you're right, it's been a long process.
Yeah, because it was this property, and also this is the same owner of Millville Road, on Kelly Green Acres.
That's correct.
Correct.
Oh, geez, really?
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, maybe the first installer bailed on this project after starting it, so they had to get another installer. So there's been some snags all around with this property.
I don't mean to joke. There seems to be a lot of snags. He's made of fish hooks, I think.
That's right, we don't joke about these things, Lonnie. No, but you're right, it's kind of been a little unfortunate, but we work to get them resolved.
I am not showing any paperwork being received back from the well driller on the new well as of yet. So I don't know if the well first need to be decommissioned before they start the new well. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because it's, they probably had to get a variance from DEP for that. That probably had to go to the state. Unless, did you see a well, because that big property doesn't have enough room to meet the 100-foot recommendation, I wouldn't think.
Well, I wouldn't think the state would be involved, wouldn't that be local oversight?
Well, sometimes it is, but sometimes it goes because the local people can't give it or it used to be that way. Now, things may change. I think that the local people are restricted with some, the distance in some areas,
Yeah, because don't we have, isn't there a 50-foot minimum?
yeah,
So, that kind of helps us out in the village area and on the lake.
right, right.
Um,
But
but,
I'm wondering,
I'm wondering if,
it's under that.
I'm wondering if the process is where there was an existing well, that it had to be decommissioned before the septic system could be complete.
Right,
And then after the septic system is complete, the new well, obviously, there must be a location cited.
right.
But if you
Do
had an
you- do
existing
you ha-
well,
do-
just to,
You must have you must have a septic system plan with that, all of that on it. Do you have the plan somewhere?
Give me 1 second.
and Joyce, I'm wondering if the existing well has to be decommissioned to make sure that absolutely no one could use it.
Right,
So I'm thinking there's an order of operations
right.
in order to get this project complete, and that was the next operation that had to take place.
Okay, so I see the proposed well is going to be right up next to the house there. Yeah, okay.
Right.
All right, yeah.
That's a pretty elaborate system. He's got a pump chamber and everything in there.
No kidding. I don't see a distance.
Well, it's 212 feet sideline. So from the actual leaching field,
Yeah,
there's well over
Yeah,
100 feet
I
to that
see
well.
it. I can see that. Yeah, yeah.
Right, and they obviously had to decommission the existing well because it's right smack in the middle of the leach field.
Right.
Yeah, did you see the circumference, Joyce?
Yep, yep.
Yep.
I
So,
do now. I do now.
Yeah.
I didn't see it before. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's
So
cool
that's
to
good.
see.
Yeah. And there was a shallow well there that I'm sure that has to be decommissioned.
Yep, and it was on the lot line too.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Existing well to be abandoned is right in the middle of that septic. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So, I
not
mean,
good.
you can't do one before you do the other.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm also,
exactly.
what's that brown shaded area within that's inside the septic area? Or is that maybe a gravel pit? Hold on. Well, that's an existing maple. I just never seen that that brown
Right.
shaded area before.
Right.
I wonder if that was something that was existing.
Or maybe there could have been a concrete pad, because that concrete pad that's on the Mendon property, maybe there was a concrete pad out there already, and that's what, because it's the same color.
Right.
Yeah, and it had to be destroyed.
Yep, I get it. Well, it'll be dug up when they dig it up, yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
Yikes. That's not cheap.
Okay, so on that address, things are progressing.
Slowly but surely, yes.
All right. Anything else on that address?
Nothing, no.
All right, Tom, I know you were questioning as to Tom Ryder's updated involvement. Is there anything you want Jack to make sure Tom's aware of at this point?
Well, just to know that he is in the loop on the latest and, what's happening there, that's all. I'm sure he is. If his plans are in place and he's got them, then, he'd
Yeah.
be communicating with their engineer,
Right.
But it's just been a long,
Who was the engineer on
Process.
that? I didn't see who the engineer was on that.
It was. Seth LaJoy Associates. They are at 27 Beckett Street in Salem, Massachusetts.
Yikes. Okay.
Okay, if we're good on that one, I know we've been making Dan Byer wait a long time.
Well, he was here for the Lake Nipmunk, and I didn't even saw Wayne even pop in at all.
Yeah. And you did let Tom Bellin know about it, right?
Yes.
Tom is out sick, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that, but just so that we don't make Dan wait any longer, if we're done with 9 Main Street, I'd like to move on.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
I am, thank you.
All right. Okay, so oh, it looks like Joyce is in charge of this one.
Well, more or less, we had talked about setting up a panel, and I thought that at the time, after we had gone through the Conservation Commission report, that we saw what had to be done, and we were, when I went to the Lake Association meeting, we were talking about getting every septic system identified and check the pumping pumping of the septic system in 2-year increments for regular septic systems. And then we were talking about at the when I went to the Lake Association meeting with and Wayne, and they were all there. There's quite a group there. We talked about the dye, that doing the dye for every single system around the lake. So I think that we need to implement that. We had talked about at that meeting, we had talked about sending out a postcard to each person that lived around the lake and ask them to answer us about where their septic system was. Do they know, when it was pumped? And then, I was talking to, Mrs. Lamoth, and, postcards are now expensive. And so that would be, we would be using money that we could use for dye and that sort of thing. And just keep on marching. I've been doing people all along Route 16. I've talked to different people, and they've given me their reports. So I've been writing it down. But I think that we need to have I think it's, the Conservation Commission has their responsibilities. The Highway Department has their responsibilities. The state highway has their responsibilities that they need to be addressing. And our responsibility is on the ground, literally, taking care of that and seeing, how we can do that. I mean, I've talked to a lot of the people that were at that meeting, and, some of them say, oh, you should check this and you should check that. And, it's go to this house over there and ask them when they last did their septic system. But, Jack and I have been getting paperwork to put every person's name that owns the property, and so that we can address that on the ground. And I think that's what we need to do.
I do have Dan Byers' hand raised. Dan?
Yeah, it's funny, you actually kind of touched on this on an earlier item. And so I was sitting here, I started doing some research. My suggestion, I think, from the Board of Health, you could narrow down, like you're talking about sending out mailings, you could probably narrow that down, because you probably have Title V's on file and records. Like, I'm looking at this list, there's probably only 10, 20 of them that you really have to drill into and send those people a letter and say, hey, we have nothing on file, we have no septic plan. So I think with some research, you can narrow down that scope.
Right.
But I think, that would be my request, is if you can look at properties that still have cesspools and determine, are they truly exempt from Title V, or did it skate through? And properties that we have no records on.
I don't think that property on the lake with the cesspool would ever escape Title V. I don't think that, but I tend to be, again,
Yeah.
Pollyanna, but I did have a nice meeting with them at the lake, and there were a lot of people there. So, I'm hoping that we can get them on our side there too, you know?
Yeah, and I talked to Jack today earlier. I'm gonna do a little more research on the testing aspect.
Right,
I do think, if you're able to ask for some additional funding in your budget, it might be worth it to do, and we have to find out what Lake Nipmuc is doing, but to maybe come up with a more expanded testing program to gather some more data that
right,
might help.
right. They did some testing on their own.
Mm.
They did some dye testing,
Yeah.
which, you know, I need to get that information from them too. But because I think it was on Old Taft Avenue, was quite a bit of failures there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like water quality, like E. coli and other contaminants
Right.
as
Well,
well.
that's you know, that's the one of the main ways of getting that contamination is the bad septic system. You know?
Alan?
So Joyce, are you indicating that you believe that the Lake Nipmuc Association did property dye testing?
Yeah, they did some.
They
Yeah.
did, okay.
Yep.
Alan?
Yeah, so Joyce, are you saying that we sort of need to get all the people you mentioned, Conservation, Board of Health, Highway, State Highway, Lake Nipmuc Association, all at the same table, come up with an action plan? And also, I know Lonnie had commented that there's no reason there can't be some funds to do more testing on the lake. And we need to do more testing on the lake, but we need to also have that plan in place long before the testing even begins and long before the beach starts getting used. So I think we also need to understand a little more about the testing that's available, turnaround time, the wait time, etc., so that we're not shutting that beach down unnecessarily. And I know Tom Belland from the Parks Department and I had a conversation about that, about the investment that's being made in the beach and the desire to add programming at the beach and the importance of not shutting the beach down as often as we have been. So we need to not only, we need to do the testing more efficiently and we need a quicker turnaround time. So obviously we need to have all the players at the table. I think that's what I'm hearing, Joyce. And we need to have an action plan so that everybody is working in their area of expertise.
Right.
Okay. So
The thing that I think that would be so important from our perspective, though, from, you know, the Board of Health's perspective, would be to test every single house on the beach side, every single one, dye test every single one on that side, and do that just on that thing and get that done ASAP. Say, you know, that's what we have to do.
All right, so
and then as the time goes on, keep expanding farther and farther out, because every single septic system on that beach property, that lake property, should have a functioning septic system.
Agreed.
You know, and you know what? They're not going to come and say, "Oh, hi, yeah, my septic system isn't working." Yeah, you're right. Okay. You know, we're going to have to engage them.
That's why we made sure that the septic loan program was in effect.
Well, you know what?
So
what was discovered was that program is more costly than if you went and got a loan from your own bank. From
Okay,
your own
I
bank.
thought it was
Yes.
2% interest rate.
Well,
2%
it's
is
not,
pretty cheap.
not anymore. You know, it was,
Okay,
it
what
was
is it,
costing
what
more.
is it currently?
I'm not sure right now. I get.
Okay, but it's more than,
Yeah.
more than what we thought.
What the consensus was that it was more because there was all kinds, it was only 2%, but it was this that was added to it from this angle and that from this angle. And it was all different kinds of things that they said, you know, the final analysis of it was that it was better to go to your own bank. For
Okay.
a loan.
Okay, that's fine. That's good to know.
Right.
All right, so, you know, I haven't heard from Tom yet, but do we need to set up a meeting with the parties mentioned, the boards mentioned, and come up with an action plan? I guess that's what I'm getting at.
I think we have to, you know, I don't know what we can do about other boards, but I do know what we have to do for our board. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, okay.
You know, I know what our board has to do. We have to find failed septic systems.
Tom?
Well, I would agree that, you know, from a local perspective, I would, you know, we have the responsibility to make sure that systems are functioning around that resource, around the lake. And I believe that, you know, I know it may become a potential problem for an owner of a property there, but, you know, nonetheless, we need to know what is and what isn't working to validate.
Correct. And the story is that property is very valuable if the lake is pristine, but if they're not keeping it pristine, their property values are going further down in the cellar. You know, so it's incumbent upon them to keep the lake pristine. You know, it's a two-way street there.
Well, I mean, I'll go back to a few years ago when we did that public hearing, Alan, and we had this topic. We met up at the Upper Town Hall, and we had that individual from might have been Microbac Labs that came and kind of spoke.
Right.
And at the time, the concern had been raised about contamination from septic systems as being a source for some of these high tests. And I know the statement that was made at that time from the individual was that if that were the case, that the numbers that would be seen would be off the chart, was the quote, in comparison to the numbers that were actually being recorded. So the person was indicating basically the numbers would be, you know, much, much, much higher if it was actually human contamination of that kind, as opposed to, you know, other types such as things that occur in nature naturally. So we haven't had that, you know, validated. That was the one time that was commented on.
Well, you know, again, there's no saying that the solution to pollution is dilution. So, I mean, that's a huge lake. I mean, it's if even, you know, the problem is still that there are failed septic systems. Now, there's E. coli is E. coli. You can get it from fish. You can get it from turtles. You know, all of those things. But Dan, right? Dan's got his hand raised.
Dan and Alan.
Yeah, I had a
Alan,
different comment though, so.
Alan, go ahead.
Okay, I thought I had been told that somewhere during the course of last summer that we did have a test result that was in the thousands, that was extremely high. So to discuss a little bit about what Tom brought up, I do believe I was told that we did have a result that may have been in the thousands versus in the hundreds. I don't remember whether I heard that from Dan or I heard it from maybe Tom Belland. So we'd have to confirm that. The other thing is, Joyce, when you're talking about septic systems along the lake, I think we're very fortunate that a lot of people on the lake have upgraded their systems and upgraded their homes. I see a lot of activity along 16 and along Taft Ave. So checking those systems and confirming things may not be as daunting as we think it is, especially if we start on both sides of the beach.
Right.
We'll
I
probably,
agree.
you know,
I agree that it's not
So
quite daunting.
if that is what we need to do and that's what our action plan needs to be, then, you know, we need to state that, and then we need to put it in motion so that we're not closing the beach unnecessarily during the small season that we have to
Right.
make use of that beach. And I know that would make the Parks Department very happy, and it would probably make a lot of taxpayers happy with the investment that's being put into the beach right now. And then, as you mentioned, you know, you keep expanding it. But
Right.
we probably need to have, I know I'm going to wear this word out, an action plan with some time limits on it so that we keep progressing. And we need to, you know, as you said it, we need to get right down to dirt level within the authorities that we have and get it done.
Right.
All right, Dan, I'm sorry, Alan.
No, please go ahead.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was gonna say, you know, I think Tom has a good point, and you know, we may not necessarily have straight up raw sewage going into the lake, but it still could be an indirect source. But I still think, you know, I guess to Alan's point, I think the board could come up with a plan. Like I'm looking at this list and there's 7 properties with cesspools.
Right.
If it were me, I would look at every one of them. Let's verify, you know, if they actually were transferred within the family and legally exempt from Title V, then that's one thing, but it might not hurt to double check that. Maybe something slipped through.
I don't think anybody's legally exempt from Title V.
State law has exemptions. You know, I do believe this board can impose local regulations, and that's you know, that would be at your discretion. I'm just saying, you're looking at the data. I would start there, and then you've got multiple properties that you have no records.
Dan, can you send me that information?
Yep. But you know, at least that would give you a baseline. You could send those 7 people a letter.
Right.
The ones with no information, I think you could also send a letter, and you know, at a minimum, maybe go out and just do an inspection. You know, maybe there is a system and it just the plans went missing. You know, that would be ideal. You know, and then people who haven't submitted pumping records, I think, you know, that would be an opportunity to look at, you know, if you have certain vendors to discuss when licenses are renewed.
I have a fair, I have a lot of information on, not a lot, not nearly a lot, but I have, Jack has it, right, Jack? The information, we're trying to find the pumpers and who's been doing it, and people who at the lake answered me and told me when they had it done last. And
yes, I've updated that list.
I've been trying to get that going, but I just think that we have to put our boots on the ground and get out there and go house to house and say, you know, we wanting to do a dye test on your septic system, and we want to see your records and blah, 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 you know? I mean, I think that's within our power.
Alan?
I know we've got some tight tanks on the list there on Taft Ave.
Yep.
So do you want to dye test the tight tanks too? Well,
it depends on how old they are, because see, this is the thing that people think, well, a tight tank, oh, tight tank is really good forever. But I mean, pine, what is the pine? Oh my
Pine tree?
God. Yeah, pine tree. Their tight tanks were brought together put together side to side. So there were that's cracking, and concrete doesn't live forever. What I'm saying? So, I mean, you don't know that. I mean, they say, well, oh yeah, I have a tight tank and blah, 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 but there's a tight tank and then there's a tight tank.
All right, Tom?
Well, I would say that, under the need to, how do I want to phrase this? The need to validate the health of the lake. In order to do that, I would believe that it is our responsibility to take the steps that Joyce is talking about in order to help validate the viewpoint out there that potentially, because we don't know necessarily for certain, but to do this sort of a dye testing to at minimum validate that, hey, these systems are okay. There's no leakage, nothing going into the lake that we can
Right.
see. So if anything, it helps to validate
Right,
that the system is functional. And that's really what we're looking to do. We're trying to validate that systems are not contaminating the lake in any way.
right,
And address, if something comes along that shows that that's not the case somewhere, then that just has to be addressed, accordingly. But if anything, I would like to think it brings reassurances to people. Overall, brings reassurances that the system is working and you feel good about,
Right.
the health of the lake in that regard. I mean, there's the things outside of the control that affect, test results for the lake, that another issue. But I personally think there's an element here that, a bigger element actually might be stormwater runoff.
right.
Type of
Well,
effect to the lake, but-
that's, we're also approaching that. I had a person that, whose name I was given to talk to, and they're not, they're not answering back in a timely fashion. I don't know whether DEP or whatever, if they're doing whatever they're doing, the DOT is working from home. I don't know, but they're not answering very quickly. But I do know that the Lake Association did some stuff on Old Taft Avenue that showed septic system failure in that area over there, which I
So
don't.
we should be able to then have a specific address that we're talking about then, right?
Yeah, I don't know, because they did mention that to me at that meeting.
Well, I know the one particular dye testing that was done, because I had a conversation with somebody with the association about it last summer. The test specifically that was mentioned had to do with testing a body of water that exists kind of right on the side of Route 16. So
Right.
if you were
Right,
traveling,
It's the outlet. It's the outlet, the inlet there.
yeah, kind of like a gathering area that for runoff
Right,
rains and whatnot. So there was dye that was put into that particular body of water.
right,
And from what I'm told anyway, approximately 10 to 15 minutes later, the dye ended up in the lake.
right. It wasn't put into the body of water. It was put into the whatever you call that, outlet area.
Well, this particular area is kind of it's a big hill on the other side of what used to be the railroad tracks that used to come down next to
Right.
Old Taft Ave, right?
Yeah,
It's on the other side of that. It's a big drop off.
right,
And it's where things gather, rainwater and whatnot.
right, yeah,
That's where I understand that the dye was put.
right,
And it
Alan?
ran from that into the lake.
right.
Okay, Alan?
Yes. you know, I know a little bit about dye testing. I know it was done at the beach to test those type tanks at one point. I believe Lenny may have been involved back then. Is there a time of year where dye testing is most effective?
Yeah,
Because
see,
if that's the case-
I'm worried that it wouldn't be the winter. But I'm not sure about that. And I tried to
Okay, well,
call,
that doesn't mean that we can't do the groundwork now,
right,
so that if springtime is the best time to do it, we're ready to go. If we wait till then, we won't be ready to go.
right,
So that's why I'm asking that question, where I'm far from an expert on dye testing. So I would need that question answered so that we're prepared for when
Right.
that time
I-
is,
I
that we're ready to go.
I tried to call that David Boyer, I think his name is it David Boyer at DEP?
Yes, yep.
He's never called me back. I've called him 3 times about dye testing, and I've left a message saying, you
All right.
know,
Do you have an email for him? I don't know if email is more effective in today's world.
I don't, I just was going by the number, you know. The
Okay,
DEP number.
maybe Jack can wave his magic wand and get us an email address.
Right,
I know Joyce and I like to talk to people on the phone and face to face. That's
right,
our preference.
right,
It's a new world out there, and not everybody
Right.
likes to communicate that way. So
Right.
that would be my only suggestion on trying to get a response.
right. Dan.
If not, I don't.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. If not, I don't see why. Maybe Tom Ryder can give us some advice on that. Lenny Izzo could give us some advice on that, as to what the best time of year or when not to do dye testing. You know, I'm sure we probably have some local resources
Right,
that could give us that information. One of the local engineering firms might be able to give us some advice.
I'm not sure that that's within their bailiwick, to tell you the truth. I don't think so. Dan, do you know when they did the testing did you know about the dye testing that the Lake Association did?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay,
I don't know much about it. I
Okay.
just sent them an email to ask about testing, but I think they have been focused in that alcove between
right,
like Old Taft down in that area mostly, because I
Right.
think there's a lot of shallow and a lot of groundwater.
right. But they did do some testing in different places too, I think, you know, I don't know though, I was there at that meeting, and we were trying to do solutions. Everybody had, a solution and what they were doing and, what happened. And I mean, I can remember when I was on the Board of Health, and we were doing the water testing, I had a group from Sterling they were very interested in that kind of project. They were trying to do solution stuff. They were working on that, trying to gather data. And we used to take the canoe and we would do testing all around the lake. We'd go in the canoe all around and do testing all the time. And it's to see where there were, huge deposits of high deposits and that sort of thing,
So Dan, a few months back, you had taken a video. I think it was at a time when we got some very high rains, and it was a video of that. What do you want to call it? Is it a stormwater runoff pipe that comes into the cove down there off of Taft Ave, Old Taft Ave?
Yeah, that was the outfall for the Taft Ave catch basins.
Right. So it was that outlet that goes into the lake is my understanding where the dye entered into when it was tested from that other area on the other side of that, what used to be the trestle track. That's where it came into the lake.
Yeah, so there's another outfall, I think, over there,
Yeah, okay.
if that's what you're referring to, like on the,
Yeah.
look on a map. I have a map of them somewhere.
And isn't there one on Kinsey Lane too, coming in from Millville Road or in there?
Oh. I'll have to find the map again. There's like two
Yeah.
or three of them,
Right.
and then the rest I think is just natural.
Alan?
If I go back to that ESS group study that the town paid $20,000 for back
Right.
in October of 2021, I believe the Lake Nipmuc Association seemed to be very disappointed in what the results were. I believe the statement was that we didn't find out anything that we didn't already know. If I go to the report that was generated at the end of that study with what they call it the final report, page 24, one of the remedies suggested was septic system improvements. And it pretty much states what Joyce has been talking about repairs, upgrades, frequent maintenance. So if we paid $20,000 for this study, even if it didn't shed any new light, here's experts telling us, and in
To
this
do it.
section, the Board of Health,
Right.
what we can do to improve the quality of the lake. So I say, along with you, Joyce, what you're saying is we follow the plan.
Right. Right. But we have to put our boots on the ground to do that. You know, to me, that's the story, you know? It's gonna take, I'd love to see, you know, maybe a group of kids from the high school maybe, who would be, you know, studying biology and that kind of stuff to come out and, you know, do some of the testing and dye testing and, you know, that kind of thing. But I know, again, my husband always says, and now Pollyanna, what are you gonna do?
Well, I mean, if your desire is to start at the beach and work our way out,
That's my desire.
then we just need to set a date to do the paperwork part according to the records that we have. And then from there, we need to set a date to go out and get it done.
Right. Yep.
But the only question I have is, like I said, I have that question about what time of year is either the best time of year to do dye testing, or
Right.
what is the absolute worst time of year to do dye testing.
Right.
Because before you know it, the beach is going to be opening for the season.
Right.
So if we want to derive any type of benefit in the near future, we you know, it's going to be January before we know it. We kind of need to
Right.
set
Get
some
going.
dates and,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
set some dates and get it done.
Right.
I have more time this time of year because of what I do for a living. So as far as attending meetings, whether they be formal or informal, as long as we're not violating open meeting law, I'm more than willing to attend so that we can kind of have a schedule and try to abide by it.
Yeah.
And then we can
I
let
just-
other boards know what we're doing and see if they want to join in, or maybe it will entice them to take some action under the umbrella that they govern.
Right. I just don't want to waste all our time doing it like in January and February and have it not be the right time. And I'm not sure where to go. I mean, again, I tried this David Boyer, I think his name is, at DEP. And, you know, to talk to them about it, and I was trying to see what was happening up at the Mass School of Pharmacy, if they had environmental engineering classes that they would want to have people do stuff with. And, you know, I'm trying to get, and you know, it's like trying to walk backwards through the mud.
Okay, I don't have a lot of knowledge of this, but what about the environmental police? I don't know exactly what their function is, but I do see them around a lot, like in the West Hill Dam area. I don't know if that's a resource that might be able to guide us and help us.
Yeah.
Doesn't that come under, does that come under the Department of Conservation and Recreation, maybe? DCR?
Yeah, I don't know that right now, but I mean, I'm, you know, I'm willing to, you know, try to figure it out.
Well, I
Alan.
think we probably have
Well,
two
Dan.
very good local sources of, to reach out to locally to get some insight with regard to a time, the best calendar timeframe for doing this. One would be Steve Donatello and the other would be Tom Ryder.
Yeah, I don't think so. I disagree with that, because that's what I did all my life. And nobody ever would said, oh, this is when we can do this. This is what we do. Nobody did that. When you did a septic system failure, you dug it up. You didn't do any dye testing. You looked through things. This is totally different than what they do.
Dan?
So they don't think they'd have an understanding for water tables and calendar timeframes and?
Well, I mean, they'd have an understanding for water tables, but of course, we all do that, right? Spring is where the water table is the highest, and that would be a good time to do it, maybe March or April.
Right.
Dan?
Oh, I was going to tell Alan, maybe give John Dudley a call sometime, because he used to do something with DCR. Maybe he would know more about what their scope is, I guess, is my point.
Okay,
He
thank
was
you.
like a ranger or something, yeah.
Yeah, didn't he do work up at the reservoir?
Quabbin, yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm just, you know, kind of brainstorming as to who
I know,
we
it's
could reach out
frustrating,
to.
you know, I
that
feel
might reach back.
frustrated.
Yeah, but I mean, we're gonna run out of time quick if we
Right.
don't have
Right,
the groundwork done, the background groundwork done. We won't be prepared to do the actual groundwork. And then we gotta be prepared for pushback.
right, for
you know,
people who say, I don't
Not
want to do that.
not everybody may be receptive, you know, to what we want to do, and we need to know what we can do when we confront someone who is not on the same page as we are.
Right,
So, I mean, there's a lot to do, even if you can't do the actual work, so that when the time is right, you can do the work.
All right, anybody else have any comments on this? Nobody else? So that is the last agenda item.
All right, so we need to set our next meeting, unless there's something that someone wants to talk about under topics not reasonably anticipated.
Nope, doesn't look
All
like
right,
it.
then. When do we want to meet again?
Well, the next 2 weeks is December 28th. I don't know how everybody's holiday schedule is, but the next one is December 28th. The week after that is January 4th. And the week after that is January 11th. So do we want to meet in 2 weeks, December 28th? Yeas or nays?
Do we have anything
I
hot?
have
and
no
pressing?
problem with that.
I mean, it seems like a slow time if you, January 4th would be appropriate because there's not a lot of wicked stuff going on.
I could go either way. And Joyce, you mentioned changing the time, making it a little
Yep.
earlier.
Yep, 6:30, yeah, for sure.
Tom, how do you feel about that? And Jack?
I'm open to 6:30. Was 6 o'clock an option? Was that too early?
Well, that's, I mean, I could do it for sure if my husband didn't mind having no dinner.
Oh, that's right, the dinner hour. Well, we can't be messing with that.
Well, I mean, hey, 6:30.
Keep it at
is
7 if
fine.
you want to. You could
What's
keep
your
it at
opinion,
7.
Jack?
No, I mean, 6:30 is fine for me. I mean, I know that you changed your time for me because of my golf situation, which I'm very grateful for that. So but I just, in fairness, I just wanted to say to you, hey, look, you know, I'm not playing golf. I don't need that extra half hour. But I can do anything. If I have to, I can do anything. If you wanted to do it at 5 o'clock, I could do it at 5 o'clock.
Jack, what's your opinion on this?
My opinion is I'm available to the board when they need me.
Wow.
Good answer. Good answer.
Well, do we want to try moving it to 6:30 and see how it goes?
Fine with me.
It's fine with me. I
All right,
All right,
appreciate.
so our next meeting will be at 6:30. We just need to find a date now.
I said January 4th.
Sounds like we need a holiday break.
What do
All
you
right,
think,
is-
Lonnie?
No
right, do I-
response.
Lonnie's
Do I have a
not
second